March 27th, 2023, the eShop is closing forever. It's gone.
That means you won't be able to see some of your favorite
3DS eShop exclusives.
So I decided to do just a little bit of research, and I've watched pretty much every eShop 3DS video out there, and I made sure in this video to not only include all of the really important ones in case you haven't watched any of those videos, but I've included stuff that no one else has talked about that I think is really good.
Oh, yeah.
There's some $30 3DS games that are 90% off until the eShop closes, and pretty much everything else is less than $10. Feel free to do some finger guns all over the like button, and let's get right into the first game on the list.
You may be suffering from amnesia.
First up is Starship Danry. For about 3 hours of playtime, this will run you $7.99, and it is 1000% worth it. This feels like old school Silent Hill, but it really utilizes the 3DS touchscreen, and it's super interactive. The 3D on it is killer. It's so fun exploring the mystery of the spaceship with all the ghosts. Can't recommend it enough. Next up is the DENPA Men series. You're seeing footage of the third game in the series right now, but all three are awesome. This was basically Pokemon Go 10 years before Pokemon Go existed. You use the camera on the 3DS to catch these little DENPA men in the real world, and then you basically go into a traditional dungeon turn-based RPG using the creatures that you caught. There's always a new one to catch based on where your real world location is where you're catching them. Very fun game, very unique for the 3DS. Each game will run you anywhere from $9.99 to $11.99, and they'll each give you about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay, so definitely worth it. Next up, we have Fluidity Spin Cycle, which will actually let you play for about 13 to 15 hours for $10.99, and this is a game that you really can't play anywhere but the 3DS because it utilizes the motion in the 3DS in addition to the touchscreen, so you actually are turning your system to the left, to the right, all the way upside down, like completely 360 degrees, and it's basically like a platformer. And even though it seems basic and gimmicky, it's actually very, very fun. I had a really hard time putting this down to go to the next game because it actually ends up getting a lot more complicated than you would think. Automaton is a game I'm sure a lot of you haven't heard of. It came out very late in the 3DS's life cycle. For $7.99, it'll give you about 5 to 6 hours of gameplay. However, there is no story here, so beware of that. But the gameplay is so fun because you can explore everything in this pretty massive world with pretty incredible graphics for the 3DS. It's a very fun exploration open world experience where you're armed with a blaster, a jetpack, and very early on have access to an airship. So this is one that isn't available anywhere else, and you might want to pick up just to look back at what could have been for the 3DS. If you didn't know by now, Level 5 are kings of the 3DS eShop, and Crimson Shroud is one of their many hidden gems. This plays like a video game version of Dungeons & Dragons, where you're playing a tabletop RPG where you have dice rolls. The story is good. It's almost like a visual novel, but there is a lot of gameplay. If you like RPGs at all, or you like tabletop games, this is a must-buy. However, just beware, there is a lot of backtracking and a lot of kind of tedious stuff. But I will say the strategy involved is very deep. So don't let the fact that it's a visual novel make you think there's not a lot of gameplay. It's actually very complex, which is why I recommend it on this list. Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword is a game that can be beaten in about 4 to 5 hours and will run you $6.99. And this game is not hard, it's not challenging, I'd say, but it is good for people who like Dark Souls or Monster Hunter style of combat, where you do have to be precise with your movements. There's fun mini games, there's villages to explore in between, basically one-on-one or three-on-one fights and some boss fights, where you're doing these precise motions of dodging, parrying, and attacking with your sword. There really isn't a lot of game like this on the 3DS, and it's a really great game where you can pick it up for a few minutes at a time, crank out a couple levels in 10 minutes, and then come back to it later. It's really good for playing in between games. You might know this game developer for their less popular series called Pokemon. Let me tell you about the true hidden gem they have for the 3DS, which is called Pocket Card Jockey. This is only $6.99 and can give you 22 to 50 hours of gameplay. And all the stuff that makes Pokemon fun and addicting can be found in this, albeit it's very different. You're basically playing solitaire to race a horse as a jockey, and you just have to try it to see how fun and addicting it is. But there's so many items you can get. You can breed horses to make horses with better stats. There's a lot of leveling up and statistics involved in addition to the solitaire gameplay. Absolutely worth it. This is a game you're actually going to play and not just have in your backlog, I promise. Attack of the Friday Monsters is kind of a visual novel for the 3DS, but there is legitimate gameplay involved too. It's kind of point and click, but then there's these monster cards that you can pick up and then end up battling, kind of like a Pokemon trading card game within the game type of thing. What really makes this special is a unique story and art, and it's just like a whole experience. It's a lot like playing a Studio Ghibli movie in a game, kind of like Ni no Kuni was. It's nothing like Ni no Kuni in terms of gameplay, but that story and that vibe, I would recommend picking it up, $7.99. And here we have another game by the people that make Pokemon. Game Freak definitely made a lot more games outside of Pokemon for the 3DS than they do for the Switch. And this one's actually a rhythm game. And what makes this fun is, unlike just straight up Guitar Hero where you just push the notes as they come, you actually have to push the notes to perform platforming moves. So you're jumping, you're hitting enemies. And again, this has a lot of polish to it. Game Freak did a great job on this one. There's a lot of rhythm games on the 3DS, but this is definitely one that I recommend if you like platformers, you already like rhythm games. It's very easy to pick up and play. You don't have to worry about ultra hard settings. It's just a fun little adventure made by one of my favorite publishers, so I hope you guys enjoy it. So this is the 10th game on the list. After this, we're going to be doing rapid fire games, so I'm just going to be telling you titles in like 10 seconds so I can cram as many games I can into this one video without keeping you here forever. But this one is called Dylan's Rolling Western. It's actually a trilogy of 3 games, also Last Ranger and Dead Heat Breakers. They're about 25 to 30 hours each. These are incredibly unique because they're tower defense games, but you're actually going around the map and getting in regular battles where you use your power roll to hit enemies. So there's a lot of strategy. You have partners that can help you with the tower defense. You're investing funds into different towers like a regular tower defense game, but rolling all over the map to collect the resources to build up your towers and actually being able to fight the enemies one-on-one whenever an invasion comes makes this an incredibly unique game, and that's why I had to put it on the featured 10 to get these 3 games while you still can. Now it's time for the rapid fire picks, so make sure to write these down and look them up if any of them look interesting to you. Dementium Remastered is a Resident Evil style horror game that you can pick up for $14.99, but I can't stress enough that Resident Evil Revelations is $2.99 on the eShop until it closes, when it's normally $29.99. So if you don't pick up this, at least pick up Resident Evil Revelations, one of the best looking 3DS games that exists. The Legend of Kusakari is a very simple game where instead of playing the hero, you keep the lawn clean for the heroes to fight on. It's a very basic grass cutting game, but it's addictive and fun, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it. Now, this is huge. Listen up. Everyone knows pretty much what Phoenix Wright is. Easy to look up if you don't, but the reason these are on the list is because these are 3DS exclusive. They're not on the Switch, they weren't in that remaster, and they're normally $30 each, but you guessed it, they are $2.99 until the eShop closes, with 30 to 40 plus hours of gameplay each for just $3 a piece. Next up, we have the Pokemon games that are available in the 3DS eShop, and this is really important to talk about because you can get red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal, all for $9.99 each. And here's the thing, as of the recording of this video, you still cannot play these on the Nintendo Switch, and that's important because even if they do come to Nintendo Switch Online, it'll be a subscription. You won't actually own the game. So if you want to own these and be able to play it on newer hardware and still be able to transfer them to your Switch, you should get them now, at least one from each series. I would recommend Crystal and Yellow. Also, make sure you download Pokemon Bank so you can transfer them over to Pokemon Home and then onto your Switch. Even though Pokemon Bank will be free as a subscription service when the eShop closes, Pokemon Transporter won't be able to be downloaded because the eShop will be closed, so you need to pay $5 now if you want Poke Transporter. Liberation Maiden will give you about 3 hours of gameplay for $7.99. It's a really cool shooter, again made by Level 5. I will say the controls are kind of hard on this one. It'll really kind of hurt your thumb the way that you have to use the touchscreen and the joystick at the same time. Since it's only 3 hours of gameplay, it's not going to be killing your hand, and the art style is beautiful. Now we have another Level 5 game called Weapon Shop Daomasi. Just so you guys know, the only reason the Level 5 games weren't featured in the top 10 was because so many people know about them. So just because they're in the second half, don't sleep on them. This is a really fun game where you run a weapon shop and supply the weapons to different main character NPCs in their own RPG adventures. There's some negotiating with them where you actually figure out what kind of weapon they want and how much to charge, and then when you craft the weapons, there's a rhythm game to play. The Box Boy Trilogy is 3 games that are on the eShop that will run you about 8 hours each for only $4.99. It is a puzzle game where you're using different amounts of boxes to traverse through these levels. It kind of eases you into it, and then it gets really complicated, and I found myself sinking a lot of hours into this game. Pushmo, Crashmo, and Stretchmo are a trilogy that uses similar puzzle mechanics, except this actually incorporates the 3rd dimension, and they're in color. Something really important though, while the first game is $6.99 and the second game is $8.99, the 3rd game is free. However, to get all the level packs, it's $9.99. So make sure you spend that $10 to unlock the over 250 levels before the eShop closes if you do buy this game. Next up, we have a Mario Hidden Gem. Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move is another puzzle game, so it's much in the same vein as those last couple games we showed. And as opposed to the last one, this one reminds me a lot more of Tetris, where you're putting in different blocks to create a path to have Mario reach the end. This game is Rhythm Heaven Megamix, and unfortunately in the United States it did not come out physically, so the only way to get it is on the eShop for $29.99. This is very fun. If you know the WarioWar mini games, no 2 games are alike in this, and it's very deserving of a spot on this list, so I don't want the price to completely scare you away because there's a full story in this, so at least look it up. Thank you guys so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, and hey, if you're in the market for a gaming chair, might as well hook you up. You can get 30% off any eWin racing chair, link in the description. All you got to do is discount code Jake Randall. So definitely give me a like for not putting the sponsor at the beginning of the video. Saved it to the end for you guys so you could just watch the games. I'll see you on the next one. Later.